What's up, guys? And good morning. My intuition is telling me that I need to put in some. Hello? Monkey? My intuition is telling me that I need to put in some more healing energy as I get the boogers out of my eyes. I just woke up 6:24. You don't know how tired I was this morning. How bad I wanted to just go back to sleep. You cannot go back to sleep, bro. You can't. Why not? Why can't I go back to sleep? Because you will feel like a failure for the rest of the day. You can't. Can't. Your morning sets the tone for the rest of the day, my bros. That was the hardest thing for me. Morning routine. You know? Rich people wake up around 6, sometimes 5. 7 o'clock is already too late. That's when corporate America wakes up. You don't want to be on that vibration. Bunch of slaves. Wage slaves. My intuition is telling me to raise my feminine to the masculine that I've put into my group, so I'll do that. Kind of weird that I'll channel a feminine energy. Wearing pink. But, I'm not afraid of being effeminate. Sometimes there's like an actual feminine personality in me. I'm a Taurus. I got some Libra in my chart somewhere, midheaven, but it's like Venus, it is a girly kind of, I like to go shopping. I like to go to the spa. I like chocolates. I'm heterosexual. It doesn't bother me if you're bisexual or homosexual or heterosexual. Doesn't bother me at all, whatever. Like a soul is a soul, A soul is genderless, but a soul is also like both genders, in my opinion. There's no gender, so, I think like spiritually. Like it would be weird if you had a planet that could just switch genders at any moment that they wanted. That would be weird. You may like the female version of somebody, but you may not necessarily like the male version. I'd rather you be a female, vice versa. Whatever. Anyways, one of my most viral posts on Facebook was about gendering. I said, it was in this like Taoism group. I was getting so many comments. Everybody in the group was starting to comment. There's like several thousand people in it, a Taoism group, but it already passed the 300 comment mark in like 15 minutes. It was getting like insane. People started arguing with each other. Like that's when it goes crazy viral. Like 20 people are like talking to each other now in the thread. Like, oh my God, that was my fastest, craziest post ever. But yeah, 300 comments in like literally like 15 minutes. And then the admins deleted the post or like turned the post off or something, but I got suspended from that group. First of all, fuck you guys for suspending me because I'm controversial, okay? Sometimes I feed on a little bit of drama, all right? But it's fun. And then occasionally I have to do my apology posts and make sure I just clear the negativity, guys. You need to learn from guys like Andrew Tate, who almost got assassinated for trying to argue with certain governments, okay? Like, you need to know when trolling gets you in trouble and when you need to clear the air. He had several opportunities to clear the air, especially with like England and the government and mothers, and Piers Morgan interviewed him, and he said, "Is there anything you'd like to say to the people?" Because he genuinely was giving him the opportunity to do you want to, what he was really saying was, do you want to show people your heart and tell the people that you actually do care about people? You're not like a riotous troublemaker. You're not incensing a revolution or something. He gave him the opportunity to do the right thing and he fucked it up. He said, "No, I'll never apologize." And then what happened? He got locked up. You know, they gave him every opportunity to just come clean and come correct, and he continued, like a defiant child. "No, I will never apologize to you." "Oh, okay." Locked his ass up in jail. So you need to know when to clear the air. It made me really uncomfortable to apologize to. It was really like 5 people, but I was just like, I'll just apologize to every single person that I've kind of mouthed off to. It made me uncomfortable to do that, but I knew that I needed to do that. I don't want any enemies, and I don't want to say shit on YouTube that gets me in trouble, 2, 3, 5 years down the line. So I have to be mindful about what I say in advance. I don't want anyone coming after me, maybe slightly paranoid, but at the same time, like, just gotta be really careful because I know that my mouth gets me in trouble. I need to be careful about roasting groups. I didn't think Jack was going to join my group, nor did I think he was going to like read it. But I mean, a few people in his group joined my group, so yeah, they could have easily just taken a screenshot. "Hey, this guy's roasting your group," So I have to be mindful of this when I even critique and do a meta-analysis of a group. What if they actually read it and send it to the group owner or the admins? I need to be mindful. I was kind of critical. Okay, so I apologize to Jack as well. I was like, yeah, I was really critical. Because if I wrote that about myself, I just roasted the shit out of myself, I would be a little bit upset. Like, Jesus, man. Like, all criticism, no compliments, no praise. That's not very nice. So, anyways, I feel like I gotta raise the feminine. Gonna use this blue and even pink. So, I can channel feminine energy just as much as I can channel masculine energy. And in that feminine energy, it's like depression. I feel like when you're growing a school group, it's like you attract like versions of yourself into the group. And I got this intuitive feeling like that was the last version of myself to synthesize. And that version of me, like 3 or 4 guys have just joined, and it reminds me of sales bros. Like when I was 25 and I was in a sales team, we would drink beer and eat pizza with all the bros, and we were in a mastermind, and all of us were top 10% in the company. We were all doing really well. That reminds me of that kind of fraternity. I was in a fraternity. My frat bros, my sales bros. So like there is this male, kind of camaraderie, my best friend was Josh. His girlfriend was so hot. I felt like his girlfriend wanted me really badly, but I was always just like awkward. She'd always wear like super tight, like fucking shorts and like seduce all the guys. She's a Pisces, but she was pretty cute. Yeah, he's my buddy. He was Aquarius. I just fell out of contact with all of them because I quit to start my own business. And then they all looked up to me for doing that. But like, it was also like really triggering for them to think about doing the same thing. And then I failed for like 3 years. I did not have very much success in business. And then finally, I fucking blew it away. And I finally figured out what monetization actually is. It's not hype. It's literally just magnetic energy. That's my truth. That's my assertion. That may not necessarily be your truth, but I think it is a universal truth, guys. Money comes to red people, red guys. You can say it's relationships, content, marketing, whatever, and I can say, okay, you tell me what your results are, and I'll tell you what my results are. And then we'll compare how quickly we achieve those results. And most of the time I'm going to win. And there is one, at least one multimillionaire in my group, and he's red as hell, okay? And I don't think he's, you know, this would be fun to poll the group, and like people really get triggered about money, but it's like, dude, it comes to those who fucking want it the baddest and are willing to fucking do all the right things, sacrifice, waking up early, hitting your numbers. So, dude, like I feel like I need to introduce like a boot camp kind of an energy. We gotta go to boot camp, man. We gotta go to training camp. Like the Saiyans train vigorously. I decided to add in that last line in my bio, calling all elite warriors and heroes of Earth. That's the message to my younger bro self. We are elite Saiyan warriors, guys. This is the identity shift that you need to have. We are elite warriors and we are heroes of Earth. Okay? We're not bad guys. We're not bullies. We troll a little bit, okay? But, okay, it's okay to troll, okay, and like start shit, but you just have to do a public apology every once in a while. It's good karma to do that. So people like Andrew Tate, he should have apologized. He should have, and I think he knew that was the right thing to do, and he just didn't do it. He should have apologized on the Piers Morgan interview. He might not have gone to jail. The British government basically is the reason why the Romanian government locked him up. That's what he said in an interview. But he should have said, guys, I'm a troll, sometimes I say things that piss people off, I don't want you to be disrespectful to your mothers and your teachers. This is what he should have said in that interview, and he didn't. Had he said that, I think it would have saved him a lot of problems down the road. It's okay to troll. Even Tekashi 69, he was a troll and then wanted to be all gangster. You can learn from these guys. These are hyper masculine, kind of alpha, kind of trolls. And it's fun and it's crazy, but then it gets him fucking thrown in jail. He wanted to turn gangster and then became a rat. So it's like you just gotta, you don't want to be in fear of your life, you guys. And I know that's an extreme. You don't want people out to get you and come for your head. You don't. Okay, so we can learn from these mistakes in advance. Everything that you say on the internet, guys, can come back around to you in karma. So periodically, just clear the air. I've talked shit about, I don't know, 5 to 10 guys publicly in my group. And so, you just gotta like balance that out and say, sometimes it's just kind of like, men like to challenge each other. And it's just a thing that we do. Sometimes we just get off on controversy, Sometimes it just motivates us to like have an opponent. We like to spar. I think men just naturally enjoy doing that. Little boys, like to fight each other and wrestle, like brothers. So, just don't take it too far, is what I'm saying. And if you feel like you have taken it too far, every once in a while, then just do a public apology. It takes balls to just apologize to people, but I feel like that's an act of love. There's no ulterior motive other than I want to improve my PR. I want to improve my public image, and I don't want any negativity, So it's uncomfortable to do shit like that, but if you feel like you have offended people, then you probably just should, man. It takes a bigger man to apologize first, even when he thinks that the other person started it. It takes a very big man to apologize, even when he thinks that it was the other person's fault. I would say for those 6 people, half of them, it was just a clash of personalities, And you can argue, like, I didn't really do anything wrong to get kicked out of one group and then people churn me. It's just my personality. But you can learn from it. You can turn enemies into allies. And, when you apologize to someone publicly, like, let's pretend that we're all like rich and influential, and maybe you said something and it was like a celebrity or like a billionaire or like a politician or a high up in a government, and they interview you about it, and you have two choices. Like, in America, they just slander constantly, smear campaigns. And the English are the absolute best at smear campaigns because in England, reputation is a bit more important than in America. In America, we shit on reputation. People smear the government like daily. People slander Trump and Biden and whoever, Obama, like it's slanderous, It's actually normal in America to just talk shit. When you go on Twitter and X, the things that Americans say to each other online, they would never say to each other in real life because you'd get fucking your ass beat. You know what I mean? So in America, it's like, it's the projection and manifestation of just like frustration in life. So then we just act like trolls on, Twitter or X, and we're just like venting. We're really just pissed because, life sucks. But instead of actually doing something about it and like bettering yourself and like learning skills, it's easier to just complain because we feel powerless, we feel defeated. But that's not like a winner, that's a loser. A loser goes home, he yells at his girlfriend, he hits his dog, just projecting, being a bum, but then like taking it out on people. A winner looks in the mirror and says, what do I honestly need to learn from this? And like, who am I becoming, guys? I'm all about identity. Who are we becoming? So I feel like clusters of people join your community at a time, and they're also like versions of yourself. And it's like a mirror showing you versions of yourself, and like how are you going to accept them, or are you going to reject them? You know, you don't need to hate yourself. You don't need to hate parts of yourself. You try to love parts of yourself and then try to bring it to the light. So, when I was frustrated in sales, kind of toxic, kind of just trolling a lot, I was frustrated because I didn't want to be employed. I wanted to have my own thing, but I was just too afraid to go for it. And I just never went for it. I just had to really fucking, commit and just fucking do it, and I failed for 3 years, but then eventually I started succeeding, you know, and I'm not gonna lie. I mean, it is a flex when you can make $100 or $200 an hour in another business. You can. You know exactly how to run the marketing numbers. You know exactly how to recreate your success. You even still have like leads and clients, right? I could easily go back to my other business. I still have my marketing list. I still have all my social media channels, but that's not my dream. Even if I make 1,000 a day, I don't care. Like, you buy a nicer car, you buy like a flashy BMW SUV or a Tesla or something, or a Mercedes. Okay, then you get a, little townhouse, and then what? Like now you're slave to the lifestyle, because now you have a mortgage, and now you have like, you're increasing your cost of living, and now you're trapped to that lifestyle. So I'm more of a minimalist. I don't even want to be slave to money, itself. Like, you make more money and then you're trapped to that lifestyle, and then you're more stressed about, paying your lifestyle. I know what that is like too. So I'm more like, I want to have a lot of cash flow and very low overhead. That's the kind of person I am. I would rather just have the comfort and the ease and the freedom of not being strapped. You know what I mean? But anyways, anything else to say today? I'm I'm using more of a healing energy right now. I feel like I need to raise the feminine energy to match my masculine energy in my group. My masculine energy is already like fucking relentless, dude. I'm willing to go 14 hours a day, every fucking day, to make this happen. And I take time off only when I feel like I absolutely need to, if I feel like super tired and burnt out. You know, a lot of people struggle with burnout and depression. And, it's also like your self esteem. It's also like, wanting to give up, wanting to go back to sleep. You're just being like an immature kid. fuck a sack up, grow a pair, and let's get to business. Like, we got to go to war. You don't want to go to war because you might die. We have to go to war, man. If this is your dream and if this is what really matters to you, and the ultimate life and the ultimate version is on the other side of all of these limitations and tiredness and procrastination and sloppy standards, then you got to declare war, on yourself, on your standards. You got to declare war. We're battling. I'm going to win. Like, this is not who I am. I'm better than this. I can do better than this. We should strive for excellence in all ways. Morning routine, energy, fitness, nutrition, and health. Okay, what about relationships? What about PR? Like, how am I treating people on the internet? And, do I need to like work on certain things? Okay, what about skills? Do I need to learn anything new? Do I need to skill up? Okay, what about my social, confidence? What about, my social skills? What about selling? What about marketing? What about branding and content? How's my outreach strategy? It's not that complicated, guys. It's just your outreach strategy and then your marketing strategy, which is oftentimes just your content strategy. It's not that complicated, man. Content and outreach, okay? It's two things. And then eventually maybe run ads and hire like social media coaches. That's it. Content and outreach, maybe hire social media coaches to blow you up even faster on content. Because eventually, guys, you want your money to come from content. Content is easier than outreach. Content, you just make content. It's more fun, for me at least. I'd rather just make videos. I don't mind doing outreach, but content, when they come to you and they watch your videos and they follow you for like how interesting and amazing you are, oh my God, dude, that's fucking supreme. That's the supreme form of business. All I gotta do is just make content and then I make like shit tons of money, right? And amazing, easy life. Everybody wants that. So you should understand you're doing content and outreach, but eventually you want the content to be so good you don't even have to do outreach. People are asking you to be interviewed. People are trying to bring you into their group. Do you know what I mean? So that's on the other side of publicity, followers, and clout, So, yeah, anyways. I mean, you're always going to have to grind. You're still trying to access like higher value people. You're still trying to get a spot into other people's networks. So it's not like you're never going to do outreach. It's just that outreach is going to change. You're going to be trying to get into the room with like certain politicians or leaders or, wealthy people, like Russell Brunson, Gary Vee, Tony Robbins. I would love to be in a room with them. How are you going to make that happen? You got to do a certain amount of like publicity outreach. You got to do a certain amount of like prospecting, like their networks, their assistants, their friends. You know what I mean? You're trying to get a spot. You're always going to have to like fight for like a better spot. You know what I mean? It's just, I think, this is me just hypothetically, but I think like once you start getting more and more, of a social presence, then, you're just trying to access higher level people like all the time. That's the game, right? That's the social game we're playing. So on school, it's pretty basic. Who's the Rockets? Who's the Crowns? Who's the Diamonds? That's the first kind of layer of clout. Hang out with Alex, win the school games. Okay, whatever. So you can then become the big fish in the small pond. But you got people on YouTube who are making like 9 figures, or worth 9 figures. You got billionaires on, IG. And, you got social media celebrities on TikTok. So that's the ultimate crowning achievement if you're really trying to play this social media influencer, digital marketing guru kind of game. And I am, I want both of those things. So it's a lot of work, man, every day. Just give your absolute best. Sometimes we feel burnt out or maybe a little depressed. Honestly think, is there anyone that I should apologize or just clear the air? Like literally a lot of my depression faded and turned into love when I did that. I thought about every single person that I was like ugly to, and I apologized to them, even though I didn't want to, even though half of them I think offended me first. I still apologize to them just because you're healing those damaged connections in yourself, man. By you loving them, by you loving the enemy, you are loving all the times that you were hurt unfairly, especially like by a man or by an authority, even if it was a woman, like if she was an authority or a teacher, it's still a masculine energy, you know what I mean? Like, or if even if it was a female boss, it's still like a masculine authority, even though she's a woman, right? It's a masculine chain of command. So anytime someone wronged me or I, mouthed off to them and, I sent them hate, or maybe not hate, but maybe just like really fucking annoyed, and like anytime I slandered someone or ran a smear campaign, I've slandered people who have churned my group because you get salty. You don't think I'm valuable. You don't like me. It's easy to get petty. You don't like me. You didn't come to my party. You didn't invite me to the party. So I don't like you very much, mister. You know, you threw me out of your group. You kicked me out. You abandoned me. You're such a hateful person. You never even gave me a chance. Rejection just sucks, guys. Rejection just sucks. Or you didn't close on the phone with me. You didn't believe in my vision. You don't believe in what I can do for you. It's easy to get petty. You get petty when people leave. You get petty when you get kicked out of a group. You get petty when they don't take you seriously and hire you as a coach. It's so easy to be petty, guys. But bro, you just can't rely on people. Some people are gonna leave you. Some people are gonna burn you. Sometimes they were your friends, they become your enemies. Sometimes they're just not interested. Sometimes it has nothing to do with you, and it's just they're not ready for what you have to offer. They're just not ready yet. They're not ready to go hard. They're not ready to build school. They're not ready to become a digital marketer and a social media influencer, right? They're just not ready for that. They're not ready for the work. They're not ready. Who do I need to become to attract people, especially higher value people? Who do I need to become to be around, 7-figure, 8-figure individuals? Who do I need to become to attract, micro influencers and influencers? 50,000 subs, 100,000 subs, that's honestly not bad at all. Right? So we're trying to like up level our network constantly. At the same time, we're also trying to sell to people who are at a similar level or maybe even a little bit below us in terms of like skill, right? Those are oftentimes the people who hire you. So you're looking at both. You're looking at equals and masterminds. You're looking at people who are better than you. And you're also looking at people that you can help and you can coach them, right? So, it's just a lot of things going on at the same time, coaching, networking, masterminding, and then, trying to get even more reach and access, and trying to close clients. It's a lot, right? And it's overwhelming, but it's really just your outreach and your content. It's just a grind, you're just gonna have to do it, man. Like I'm trying to get 5 people a day into my group. That's gonna be 150 people a month. That's pretty great. But it's not about just the number, it's about the quality. Some of you guys are good at getting the numbers, but you need to make sure it's high quality. You want to program the intention to the universe and to your group of like the kind of person that I want to join, the kind of person that I want to attract is a winner, is a successful person, wants to really go full-time on school or is already get full-time income on school. Really wants that, like really wants that. That's who I want to attract, because that will not only be people who join my group, that's also going to be people who will hire me. They really fucking want this, man. So let's make it happen. They see that I'm hitting my numbers every day. They know that that's what they need to be doing. It's not rocket science. Okay. Sometimes you just use money. Money is like rocket boots, the rocket boots just make you run faster. So you use money to just add rockets to your boots, let's just go even fucking faster. That's what coaching really is. Even if it's healing or even if it's clarity or even if it's fitness or even if it's nutrition or mindset, okay? Those are like all of the chakras as well. Clarity, communication, social media coach, healing, depression, burnout, life coach. Life coach can also be solar plexus, mindset, productivity coach, accountability coach, right? Sacrum to me is like health, wellness, dietitian, fitness coach. You know, you wouldn't say emotional coach, but you could put all the creative stuff here, storytelling, or just a social club to me is like the sacrum. And then in the root, business coaching, performance coaching, boot camp, kind of a discipline, kind of a red kind of thing. Dude, it's like we got to do the reps, man. It's time to grind. All right. So that's where I'm at today, guys. We're in the spectral night, day 11 of 13 in the wave spell. Blue night is good with abundance, and 11 spectral is a purifying energy. Spectral day is actually one of my favorite days of the 13 day. It feels like a purifying energy. So purifying night. Well, I had to purify my damaged masculine connections and me being a hater and me being a troll. Okay, did that. And then we have to just purify the depression, the burnout, the loneliness, the long nights. You got to sacrifice, man. You need to sacrifice, just chasing girls around, and sacrifice video games, and sacrifice just Netflix and anime. You got to really sacrifice, man. But if you're willing to give this everything that you got, you have a strong chance to succeed and really make this happen, guys. So that's my message. All right. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll catch you later.